Well, hello and welcome to the new episode of the Terri Cole Show. I'm so excited that you decided to hang out with me today. But before we get into today's topic, which is how to tackle trust issues, I'm giving you a 6-step healing guide. I have a special announcements for the ladies in the crew. I am doing something that I'm calling Boundary Palooza, and it is a free 4-part live workshop series. And don't worry, if you can't be there live, sign up anyway, and I will promise I will send you all of the recordings and the beautiful workbook that we've created for you to go along with the workshop series. This series is to basically raise your intelligence around how to set effective boundaries, how to understand your own boundary style, the things that you struggle with. So it's a 4-part free workshop series, and I want you to come. That's it, ladies. That's all I'm saying about this. So how do you come? terricole.com/workshop. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the show notes. If you're seeing it on terricole.com, it's in the show notes. If you're just listening, then remember it. It's easy. terricole.com/workshop. I can't wait to share with you this beautiful thing that we've created, me and Team TC. So thank you for that short break. That's a little PSA for Boundary Palooza. It's going to be amazing. All right, how about we move into trust issues? Raise your hand if you have any, people. Anybody have any trust issues? If I could see all of you, then I would say everyone has their hand up to a degree or not, right? Some people's trust issues are worse than others. And there are reasons why we have trust issues. Lots of reasons. So let's just start getting into why. Well, we have things that happen to us. Not all people are really good people, right? Sometimes we get involved with people who are mentally unwell or who are narcissists or who are mean or who took advantage of us. And so when that trust is broken, something happens within you. So And part of the problem is that once you have trust broken, especially if it's been broken a couple of times, we start to project it into places where it may not be. We may start suspecting trustworthy folks of being untrustworthy. Or we might think, well, this is the way that this person was, or my father cheated on my mother, so therefore that means all men cheat. Or I need to be suspicious in my relationship because I think they're untrustworthy. So let's talk about the why and the what you can do about it. The first most important thing, and this is really the first step, is understanding your trust blueprint. We all have them, as you guys know. If you've been on this channel, you've been listening to my podcast for any number of years. It's been on for 4 at this point, if you can believe it. Then I believe, my theory is that we have blueprints about pretty much everything, because this is the unconscious stuff that we learn through our parents in childhood by witnessing. And it isn't even like your parents need to want to teach you this. We learn these things and they get downloaded in that unconscious space, or the basement of your mind, as I call it, naturally. Your parents don't have to tell you anything. Kids are so astute. They're like little sponges. And it may happen if you ended up in a situation where I grew up and actually my mother had an affair. And interestingly, I did not end up having those kind of trust issues from that experience. Now, had it been my father, maybe I would have. I don't know, right? And we're all so different. This is the whole thing about blueprints. And so within the downloadable healing guide, you're going to have some questions that you can answer to really get a nice snapshot of what your downloaded trust blueprint is. And it makes it so much easier to make changes if we're looking to build more trust with the people in our lives. If we really get that snapshot of understanding where we are now, what have our repeated realities been, as I call it, on this. I've had some clients come to me and say, I always end up in a situation where someone is unfaithful, or I always end up in a situation where my best friend betrays me, or I always seem to, or I've had this happen 4 or 5 times. And all I can say about that is the only thing I know for sure is that you are the common denominator in your life, just like I am the common denominator in my life. So if we are attracting repeated experiences, it's not about blame or about like we deserve that crap, because we don't. But we have to look at why. And from a therapeutic point of view and my own lens, we repeat what we do not repair, which is a famous quote that I did not make up. And I can't remember this lady's name is Christine something, but it's a great quote. And it's the truth. This is all based on Freud's, repetition compulsion theory, that if something is painful, dramatic, traumatic, that as humans, we have a tendency to repeat it, which really sounds counterintuitive. Like, why would we repeat it if it was terrible? But there's something about wanting a different outcome. There's something about wanting to master the trauma or drama of that situation. I think that has to do with why we repeat it. I look at it like the kid inside of us is like, hey, I want a do-over. I want it to be different this time. I want it to be better this time. So there's lots of different theories out there, but that's the first step, and that's the first thing that you're going to be looking at yourself, is what is your trust blueprint? And it's not just how your parents behaved with each other. It's how did the family behave? Was there trust amongst the siblings? Did your word mean something, right? Or would someone like rat you out? We had a very strict code of behavior. My sisters and I have 3 older sisters, and ratting each other out, no matter what happened, no matter what you did, even if it was bad, was just off the table. It's like the same thing with my girlfriends when we were in high school. Like, nobody could go out with anybody's ex-boyfriend. Like, that's it. Like, just, he's off the table. That's what's happening. So all families have their norms and their cultures. So I want you to think about yours. Was there trust broken, or was there trust that you could count on in your family of origin? Okay, so all of that is going to be going under the trust blueprint part of your healing guide. And the next thing to look at is we have to learn from the past. We have to learn from our past experiences. And a lot of times it takes us to repeat those experiences many times. And that's everyone. I've been in therapy since I'm 19 years old. And it still took me years to stop particular trust breaking experiences. Mine always ended up being with women for some reason, like friendships. I mean, I had some. I guess I had one boyfriend, the bad boyfriend that I wrote about last week on Instagram, who fell asleep sitting up at fancy dinners, that bad boyfriend. Yeah, he also cheated on me. And also lied about getting tested for STD. Like, okay, so we've all had our trust experiences, but our job and wanting to, you're on this channel, you're listening to my podcast, you're definitely someone who's interested in some kind of evolution or lessening some kind of pain in your life. So we have to look at our past experiences with trust and get real about that, right? We need to look at what was our part, because every single thing that happens in our life is 50%. 50% you, 50% the other person. And so it's never just them. Even if they acted terribly, it can't just be them. It's just not possible, right? It has to be your 50% may simply be that you stayed in the friendship or that you didn't end the relationship. And again, none of this is about you deserve it or there's punishment. It really isn't. It's about how can you become empowered from these experiences so that you can create different, better, trusting experiences. And one of those things has to do with when you learn from the past, you also start to dial into your gut instinct. It's like trusting your gut, because if you think back, and if I think back to my bad experiences, I'm like, yeah, I kind of knew this person was sketchy I kind of did know it, but I didn't want to. Whether maybe I was lonely, I wanted to be in a relationship, or it just felt good to have someone, even though down deep I was like, is this person your person? Hell no, definitely not. And then those trust-breaking experiences kept happening until, ironically, he broke up with me, which is kind of funny. But hey, sometimes that's the way life goes. So let's next move into the third thing that we're going to talk about, which is working on staying present. When you've had trust issues in the past in your life, Because you also could have trust issues, not just because of what was between your parents or because of your relationship with siblings. It could be that your parents were not trustworthy, that they didn't keep their word to you, right? And that puts a deep, that drops deep into the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind, because we don't want to know that, because it's so painful to have, parents, the people supposed to take the best care of you. Hey, they don't always take the best care of you. They're not always capable of doing that. And we're sort of left holding the bag filled with dysfunctional shit that kind of that they put there, but I'm sure they had the same thing with their parents. So anyway, the third thing, we're staying present in our life, meaning stop ruminating about the past. Be mindful of how often you are sort of reliving these painful experiences, or ruminating about what you should or shouldn't have said, or if this person, when they did that, then I should have said this. It's just a waste of your beautiful, amazing, one-of-a-kind life. Actually a waste of your time. So ruminating, bye-bye, and catastrophically projecting into the future. So what do we call that? Future tripping. But it's always some fear thing. And I've had people talk about, well, if that person does that, then I'm going to do this, and get so worked up. And I'm like, how about we wait to see if that person does that? Or do you think they're going to do that? But like, the thing only happened in their mind, this forward projection of something bad. And yet they're flipping out about it. They're literally getting jacked up and super angry about it. Okay, but that it didn't even happen. So let's not. How about you put all that friggin' energy into learning how to draw boundaries by doing Boundary Palooza with me, and things can shift in your life differently. How do we stay present, though? I mean, that I think that a dedicated meditation practice, at least in my own life, creates response time. So instead of reacting, you're responding, and you can choose to catch yourself like, oh, look, I'm thinking about the past. Oh, look, I'm fearfully projecting into the future about some disastrous thing that has not happened. And you can pull yourself back, but it's a process, right? You don't just say, I'm going to stay present. It's a skill. It's a practice. We have to continually be like, I'm coming back to the present moment. I'm coming back to the present moment. Yes, so there's that. Those are the first three. The next is about boundaries. Speaking of Boundary Palooza, that setting boundaries and communicating your preference early and often is so important. And what it does is, instead of leaving all this space for someone to get it wrong, right? If we don't talk about what we want and how we feel, or we don't like it. So let's say you're dating someone and they call you late at night, but you don't like it. If you don't tell them and put that boundary, and then be specific, and you can do it in a nice way, you can even be funny, you could be cute, you could be flirty, but say it so they know. What ends up happening is we start feeling resentful, and that can become a trust issue. Like, I feel like he's self-absorbed and self-centered, or she is only thinking about herself because I have to wake up tomorrow, and she's texting me at 2 a.m. Draw a boundary. Turn your phone off. Why is it waking you up if you're a grown-up? I mean, that's like teenagers keep their phones on, or parents with teenagers, but pretty much everyone else, unless you're a first responder or something, or you're a doctor on call, turn your freaking phone off when you go to sleep. But anyway, that is something that if you don't set those boundaries and speak up, we really set ourselves up for having more broken trust or more trust issues. So, setting clear boundaries and communicating your preferences, right? Your desires, what you would like, even with the simple stuff, is a great way to build a very reciprocal and trusting relationship. And again, these are the steps for you to heal if you have broken trust and if it's hard for you to trust. But this is about you taking the actions that you can take to have this better relationship to trust, to build it, All right, moving on. So we got the boundaries, we got the learning from the past, we got the staying present, we got the understanding your trust blueprint, and now let's move into self-mastery. So that really means knowing yourself. That means taking the time, journal about the way you feel, dive into your relationship with trust, how trusting you are or aren't, why, things that really broke your heart or upset you or hurt your feelings, where someone, broke your trust. That's your story. Question the story. Honor the story. Write the story. But it's really about becoming masterful about you, because it's very easy to just set ourselves up to remain in that repetition, right? That repeating boundary reality, or that repeating relationship reality, as I would call it, if we don't do something different. So deciding what to do different is really based on what you've experienced, because those things are shaping how trusting you are or aren't. So get your journaling on, write letters to people if you need to, whatever it is that you feel like you need to do to get clarity on the story. And if your story is that person was just a jerk, it was all them, that isn't true. And that isn't a part of my 6-step healing guide, because it's not real. Even if people do us wrong, we have to look at our 50%. And why do I say that? To blame you? Of course not. I say that because that's how you will become empowered to build more trust. Stop attracting untrustworthy people. And when we don't say anything, it's easy for people to just be like, well, he's fine with anything. She's fine with anything. But that's not really true. You're literally keeping score in your mind. You've got that file cabinet of all of their infractions that they're doing, So that's the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, last one is, so this one, I saved it for last because I felt like it was probably the most important one, which is doing a self-trust inventory. I find with my clients over the past 20 years that people who have the most trust problems have the least trusting relationship with themselves, meaning they have the disease to please. They're highly codependent. They're seeking approval a lot. So they will abandon themselves to be of service to someone else. Does this resonate with anyone, I wonder? Because so many women that I know and in my courses have this experience where they're kind of last on their own list. And breaking your trust could also be when you say you're going to drink less, or you're going to get physically fit, or take care of your health more, and you don't. You skip it. You do something for someone else. You're always prioritizing other people rather than yourself. Like, it's okay to cancel on you, but you would never do that to someone else. So I want you to look at the self-trust inventory. And those of us who've had addiction issues in life, this is something that's really important, because when you're active, whether you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, or you're shopping and spending all of the money you don't have, or you're a sex addict, there's many things that people can be addicted to. Could be Netflix at this point, but you're not making the best choices. You're not making choices for your highest self, right? For in your highest good is really what I should say. So I want you to really do that inventory. There'll be a couple of questions for you to answer in the healing guide, where you can get some clarity, because this inventory can lead you to forgiveness, right? There has to be a place where you forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made. We're human. We all make them. This is a part, we're not supposed to be perfect, right? We'd be in some other incarnation if perfection was what it was about. It's about learning, and I want to inspire you to embrace the learning. See it as the beautiful honor and opportunity that it is. What a friggin' gift that you even get to learn or care about your higher learning, your higher education, of your evolution of your mind, yourself, your life. Like, we're so lucky to even know to think that. So don't just throw it away. Don't put yourself in that one down position. Like, embrace it. Do the self-trust inventory and forgive yourself. Just do it. It's worth it. These are all things that you can do. Take your time, be expansive to really start to build trust in other people, trust in your ability to choose well, trust in your ability to stand up for you, right? It's so incredibly important. So that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to say thank you so much. If you like this episode, if it speaks to you, please share it on your social media platform so together we can create the most massive positive ripple this world has ever seen, right? That is what I'm all about. Remember, terricole.com/workshop. Sign up now, ladies. It's for women only. Yeah, I'm super psyched to see you. It starts on the 10th, ends on the 19th. There'll be all kinds of other opportunities going on during that time. Boundary Palooza, here you come. Yeah. So, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you for spending time with me. And as always, take care of you.